Hello, my people. Now it's time for having fun and to continue and finish writing our API. As you guys remember from the last video, we just did the setup for the local Firebase, and we have all of this configuration here to create the application, to connect to the database, and it's all working fine. So now let's continue on our quest and let's start creating our routes. So what we want to do is to create a ToDo, then update ToDo, delete ToDo, and get ToDo or ToDos. We will have a few actions for these things here. But first of all, let me clean this thing up. I want to do a quick refactoring here on this function because we are not gonna use all of these things. We only need the client here because we're gonna pass this client to the handlers so the handlers can retrieve or create new data inside Firebase. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. I'm going to create a new function here, create client, and this function will return a firestore.client or an error. And next step is to simply copy everything from the main function into the create client function. And of course, we have to simply change a few things here because we need now to return either a client or an error. In case something happens here, something bad, we return nothing and the error back. And yeah, if something goes wrong here, we say just fatal, and that's gonna take care of everything. And we don't need any of this code. We can remove, and then we return the client and new because no error happened. As you guys can see here, there is a warning here, and that's because my Visual Studio always gets the wrong import here for some reason. I don't know why, but let's fix this one and fix it quickly. So this one is the proper import, which is cloud.google.com/go/firestore. Now, as you guys can see, there are no warnings here and we are good to go. Next step is to install Gin Gonic using GoGet. So just come to the website here. There is a GitHub and there also another website, so you can find on Google. And let's copy this command here, goget-u github.com/gingonic/gin. So this is going to install Gin Gonic on our project. Let me clean up this screen. I have copied too many things. And now here we go. Should be quick, should not take too long to get Gin Gonic installed. And there we go. It's all good. We have all the dependencies we need. Now we can continue on our quest here, and we can now simply get a new client because we will need to use this client later on for the next handlers that we'll be creating here. So let's create client, and if error is not new, which means something happened or something bad happened, I'm just gonna log printf, and I'm saying error creating client, and I'm gonna pass whatever the error I got from the create client function, and I'll say return. So it's gonna end the function here because if I cannot get the client, so there is nothing else we could do. Okay, now it's the time to start creating our beautiful routes, and we're going to simply get the router or to get the Gin engine. As you guys can see, if we click in here, gin.default, it's gonna return an engine here, and they gave us this documentation here. The first return an engine instance with the logger and recovery middleware already attached. So it's the whole web server, everything that we need to run the application. Pretty neat. And the first route I want to create in here is a route to health check. I'm gonna create r.get. It's gonna be /API /health. And I will be create a handler to handle this path here. So I'm gonna create handlers dot health check handler. And this is something that I usually like doing, which is to split things by responsibility. And I'm gonna create a new package here, which I'm gonna call handlers. And now we can simply create our health checker here. New file, health checker.go. Then here, package, it's gonna be handlers, because we'll be creating all of our handlers inside this package here. And now we can define our health check handler function, which is gonna be a function that's gonna receive a Gin context. And now it's the time to return the function result, which is gonna be a Gin context, and also simply return the JSON we want. As I said, I simply want to have this JSON here returning something like, okay, I'm running and this service is all good. So http.status okay, and I'm gonna return a simple JSON here saying okay, and that's true, which means yes, I'm running fine. And if you have a function or a routine to health check our application, we can call this endpoint, as we're gonna do in the demo, and then the health checker can know that the application is running. And handlers, and I probably need to import the handlers here as well. So that's gonna be another import here. It's gonna be handlers, and there we go. We now have the handlers here, and the client here, it's not being used. So I believe I can simply ignore it for the time being. And let's now run our application. To run the application, we need to configure the run method. As you guys remember, we are still using the port 8080. And for some reason, this is the preferred port for any web service. That's why I'm simply binding here our API to run on the port 990, because the port 8080 is already being taken by Firebase. That's all we have to do. Let me clean the screen and go run main.go, and should not take too long. And now we are running. Just to test that, we can open a new command line here and say curl localhost 9090/API/health. And that's true. We are running and our application is fine. So pretty neat, pretty good. We can then proceed into our quests and create now a handler to create a to-do. In order to create a new to-do here, what we want to do is to have another route here, and this time it's gonna be a post to /todos. And again, I will have a new handler there to create my new to-do. And also I will be passing the client, because now I need the client, because I need to call Firebase to create that handler. And let's create that handler right now. And now new file create todo.go. Just same thing that we did before. So the package, it's gonna still be handlers, and the signature of my function, that's gonna be pretty much the same as before. So the only difference here is that I'm now passing the Firestore client as a parameter, but it still be a Gin context function. Now we need to define the return here, which is gonna be a function that receives a Gin context, and then we can simply write our code in here to do whatever we want. What exactly we want here is simply the code to bind the JSON, because we're gonna have a to-do JSON, and then we need to bind in here so we can operate on that struct. That's all we have to do. And just checking here, talking about Firestore. Yeah, we have no data here, just cleaned everything, looks fine. And that's all we're gonna do in here. So for that, I will need a to-do struct, and I'm gonna define a new package called ToDos or types, and I'm gonna create that ToDo inside that package. I'm gonna have a ToDo struct inside this file here, and there we go. So this is the struct to support my ToDo requests. I will have an ID, a title, a description, a field called completed, because we may create a ToDo first, and then later on we could call the API to say, okay, now this ToDo has been completed. Also a created at time and also updated at time. It looks pretty good. And now one more thing here is, let me create a constant here, which will be the collection name that we're going to use to operate our ToDos. The collection is going to be called ToDos. First step here is to bind the request into this structure here. So I'm going to if error CBC bind JSON. We need to bind the JSON from that JSON into this struct here. And the struct is ToDo. And if error is not new, something bad happened, then what we can do is simply to abort with status JSON saying HTTP bad request, which means the user has passed something bad to us. We tried to bind that JSON and we couldn't, so there is nothing else we can do. And then return a JSON saying error to the user, and then we can simply grab the error that we got from the library here. Final step here is to return, so we don't want to execute anything else. We need a new variable here. I'm gonna call it now, so give me the time, whatever it is right now, and I'm gonna bind to the object create at we receive now, and to do updated at we receive now. So at creation time, both created at and updated at, they will have the same value, and that makes sense because I'm simply creating that new ToDo, and now we can work on saving the information inside Firebase. For that, I'm going to get a reference from client collection. Oops, something. Yeah, this import here is wrong for some reason. Again, my Visual Studio always get the wrong import collection, and then the collection name, that's going to be types.todo collection, and create a new doc. I'm going to ask the reference to save that item. So I don't want to receive anything in here, or an error as a second parameter. Client, it's going to be reference.set, and I will say set using that context, which comes from Gin. And now I'm going to pass a map of values, which is string, and also an interface in here. And then I can start describing our structure to go into the database. So that's going to be title, and that's going to be ToDo.title, and description, it's going to be ToDo.description. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for all the other methods here. So things can go wrong here. That's why we are receiving the first parameter here, which we are not using, but the second parameter is an error. And we can simply add an error check in here. If something happened here, then we can do anything we want, such as login, and also returning a JSON here saying, well, that status is wrong, and that's all we have to do. The last step here is to simply return the JSON with the newly created ToDo. That's all we need. We are pretty much set to go. I just double check here. So our ToDo is create handler. We bind the request, fill in a few details, which are the created at and updated at, and then we simply feed that information to the map, and it's gonna get set into the Firebase. Let's try it again. Let me run the application, and this time we're going to use a tool that I really like and enjoy, which is Postman. Yeah, I already have here, so I'm gonna call a post on localhost 9090/todos, And I'm gonna pass here a body which has a title, description, and also completed fields. Just double check here. Yeah, completed is always false when creating. And let's try buy milk. I should buy lactose-free milk at Woolies. If I say send, that's it. I just got my response back here. See that the ID is empty because I have not filled in the ID later on here, but we don't have to do that if we don't want. So we can proceed and create the other stuff in here. The next step here is to grab all to-dos. If I want to list all to-dos, that's all I have to do, is to create a new handler to say, okay, list me all to-dos that we have in the database. We could have filters here, but as we are working as a single user, so we don't have to. The function is gonna be pretty much the same as the create to-do, as we will see it. And let me grab that function and I'm gonna write. So that's gonna be almost the same signature as we had for the create to-do. So list to-dos, I will receive a Firestore client, and it's a function of the type Gin context here. So I'm gonna go a little bit faster here. And what we need here is to have an array of to-dos, because we may or may not have more than one to-do. It's likely to have more than one to-do. Next step is to get an iterator from the collection, which is from a collections called to-dos, as we've seen before. After getting that iterator, we can simply iterate through all the items and then simply append each to-do that we found to an element inside this array here. For doing that is quite simple. The only thing we have to do is this. So just a for loop, and we're gonna receive a doc or an error asking for the next element or the next document. If error is equals to iterator done, then we break because we have reached the end of the iteration. Or if there is any other error, we simply return a status internal server error saying something really bad happened and I don't know how to handle that. And here we are simply appending every single element we found into the array. And that's exactly what the append here means. And again, on every single iteration, we are creating a new to-do with the document that we got from the iterator. Last thing here is to simply return that result JSON that we found. And that's all we have to do for listing all clients. And it's quite simple. Just inject the client here, define an array, get the iterator from the collection, which is called to-dos, passing the context from Gin. And now we can simply create or update this array with all elements we found. And run it again. And let me create these two new fields. And I'm going to create a new to-do here by coffee and by milk. Now I have two elements here, coffee and milk. And if I request now all to-dos, we can have the list of all to-dos we have created. Pretty good, pretty neat. Next step is to create another route. Each time we're going to create a route to return a single to-do. And that is quite easy. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So that's going to be a get to-do on the main, and we have to create that handler as well. So the handler is going to be similar to the one we have for list all. The name is going to be get to do. I'm going to simply to copy and paste my handler here and just show you guys what I have done. So it's the same package. I have the same imports as before. The function get to do handler signature is the same, receiving the client, and it's also a function of type Gin context. Then we return that function here. And the biggest difference is that we have to get the ID from the parameter because we'll be passing that ID for that specific to-do. And now we will get a document snapshot from that collection. So client, given this collection name, give me this document here, which is the same ID as we're passing on the path parameters. Error handling here, as usual. If something goes wrong, just return 500. And now I'm get the data from the document snapshot. And I'm simply filling in the structure with the information I found from the document, which is pretty much similar to what we have done before. In the end, we return a JSON back, which is the to-do with status OK or 200. As we have that list with all to-dos, I can grab the buy milk here, and I can use that ID to call /todos/ID. So it returns me that buy milk. It works fine. Next step is to add a update to-do. So it's going to be to update any specific to-do. The idea here is pretty much the same as before. So we're going to pass the ID on the path parameters, but there's going to be another handler because this time we are sending via patch. So let's create our update handler to-do, UpdateToDo.go. And once again, I'm going to add my code here to handle all the tasks I need to do, which is basically the same set of imports and the new signature, which only changes the name. And again, I still have the parameter because we need to pass that parameter in the URL. I'm grabbing the payload and binding it to my struct, which is the to-do struct. Validating here as well. If something happens, just abort. And the next step is to simply add that ID into my to-do. That's something we could have done in the Create to-do as well. And I am updating the time here, the updated at time, because now we are issuing an update. Almost last step here, which is this step to actually update the document, is to call client.collection, collection name. Doc is that document ID. Now set all the fields or the fields I'm giving to you and merge all. That's all the necessary work for Firebase to update that document that we're passing here. And as usual, if something happens, something bad happens, then simply return a 500. If everything goes fine, simply return OK and just pass me that to-do back. Use now patch. Let me get the buy milk and I'm going to replace my ID here. And I will update here with true and say, yes, I did. Just before we send these requests here, let me grab all to-dos. So we still have here buy milk and I should buy milk at goals. Now, once I update here, that's it. It just changed my item there. And if we grab all elements, you guys can see that, yes, I bought milk and that's all good. Last step here is to create a delete. Let me add that new route in here. And that's going to be a delete for a specific to-do. Same thing as before. And let me create a DeleteDo.go. And now I'm going to just paste the code here. Same thing as before. So the same set of imports and the same signature here. The only difference is the function name is different. And again, receiving that ID from the path parameter, so we can operate over this unique document ID. And then we can simply say client collection, which is called to-do or to-dos. On the document ID that I'm passing, simply delete that document. I don't need it anymore. And that's all we have to do to delete the document. If something bad happens, then simply return 500. Or if everything goes fine, simply returns OK. We now have another route here, which is /delete. And just sending here to list to-dos. I still have two. Let me delete the buy coffee one. If I issue a delete against /todos/ that ID, it returned me a 200 OK with nothing because I did not pass anything back. If I list again, it's all gone. And I'll see you guys next time.